To all those people watching, I would like to remind everyone that this video is not made strictly for kids. It is for older fans and adults too. Enjoy the fucking video! This video is brought to you by my loyal patrons. Register now at any tier to watch new videos 1 month in advance before they're made public. Link is in the description. Ever since the other railway had allowed steam engines back on the main line to run tour trains, lots of people had requested Sir Charles to use some of his engines for special trains. Sir Charles was flattered with the request since the engines were famous in the thin clergyman's books, but he simply couldn't spare any of them because they had so much work to do on the railway. One day, he was in his office when his secretary came in with some mail. Sir Charles looked through the many letters, many of them from people who had asked to charter one of his engines, until he found one with a special postmark of an engine called Locomotion. Sir Charles opened the letter and gasped when he saw it. It was a request by a committee who were to have a gathering of steam engines for a very special celebration the next year. 1975 was a very special year for the railway on the mainland. It was the 150th anniversary of the Stockton Darlington Railway, the first railway line to operate goods and passengers under steam haulage. To mark this auspicious occasion, there was to be a gathering of all preserved steam engines at Shildon in County Durham, and adding to that, a cavalcade to end the big gathering, running from Shildon to Hayington, known as a Grand Steam Cavalcade. The organisers had requested Sir Charles to bring 2 engines from his railway to take part. In a rare occurrence, he accepted the invite and their request. When Gordon heard about it, he was very excited. "Who would be going, sir?" he asked. "Well, I can't send you, Gordon," Sir Charles chuckled. "The organisers want 2 engines to take part, and they have made a request for Thomas and Edward to join." "What? Thomas? Edward?" gasped Gordon. "But why not me, sir?" "Like I said, Gordon, the organisers want them specifically, and I must comply. Besides, I need you to help out with the summer traffic here around that time anyway. Good day to you, Gordon." He sniffed. "Probably wouldn't be a good show anyway." When Thomas and Edward were told about the invite, they were very excited. If you ever visit the island of Sodor and are interested in the stories from the various railways, then you should visit the Railway Archives. It's a treasure trove of stories over the years with all of the engines across the island of Sodor, big or small. Let's take a look at all the stories that are a blast from the past for the engines of Sodor. The next year came, and as it was getting closer to the day of the festivities, Thomas grew more and more excited. Percy wished he could come, but someone had to look after the branch line while Thomas was away. Percy couldn't help but thinking of taking part in the parade, but because of that, he wasn't paying attention. After collecting some stone from the quarry, he puffed down the line as usual. Meanwhile, a lorry filled with stone had broken down due to its heavy load. The driver tried his best to push, but to no avail. Then he heard Percy's whistle. He tried to push it again, but nothing worked, and as Percy came nearer and nearer to the lorry, the driver raced away to shelter himself from impact. Percy's driver saw the lorry ahead and applied the brakes. Poor Percy was derailed, and the stone from the lorry and his trucks flew all over, damaging him. Rescue came and he was taken to the works to be mended. Sir Charles came to see him, and an inspector told him how long it would take for Percy to be fixed. "Oh dear," sighed Sir Charles unhappily. "He won't be pleased." With Percy being away for a few months, Toby, I want you to look after his work until he returns. And Thomas, I'm sorry, but you will have to miss out on your part of the Rail 150 celebrations, so you can look after Toby's passengers as well as your own. Thomas's heart sank. But sir, who will take my place? I'll find a replacement for you, Thomas, don't worry. I'm sorry that you'll have to miss out, though. It's all right, sir, sighed Thomas. Sir Charles tried his best to find a replacement, but all the engines on his railway were going to be very busy around that same time, and the event was going to be happening soon, but it was all too much for him, and he decided to have a weekend getaway from it all. His wife had suggested staying in the town of Wigton in Scotland, and he agreed. Sir Charles was pleased to get away from the drama of finding a replacement for Thomas, but at times the dread always comes back to haunt him. One day during their weekend trip, they came across an old rail yard and station that was lost to time. Sir Charles and his wife had taken a look to see what was still lying around, and possibly see what could be useful for the railway back on Sodor. While they were rummaging, Sir Charles's wife then heard a snoring sound. "Is that you, dear?" she asked. "No." "Why?" asked Sir Charles, confused. "There it is again." They looked around to find the source of that noise, but the sound was gone. "Must have been the wind," replied Sir Charles. "Maybe we should leave, dear," said his wife, and together they walked away. Later that night, Sir Charles and his wife decided to go out to have dinner when they spotted an elderly man walking towards them. "I saw you two today looking around the old yard. What was it you were looking for?" Then Sir Charles and his wife explained. "Ah, so you're the famous controller of the railway of Sodor then? The fat controller?" "Yes, thank you," Sir Charles replied. "I used to work on that line many years ago during its pre-grouping days. The Port Patrick and Wigtonshire Joint Railway." And then he told Sir Charles and his wife the history of that line. Sir Charles was fascinated by the man's knowledge of it all, and then the elderly gentleman told him that there was an engine still in storage after being withdrawn many years ago. This piqued Sir Charles's interest further. "Aye, true, sir. A Bloomer class." "A Bloomer class?" gasped Sir Charles. "I thought they were all being scrapped 77 years ago." "True, sir, but one managed to get away." "Perhaps that was the snoring sound we heard earlier, Charles?" said his wife. "Would you like to meet him, sir? I still have the key to the shed," asked the elderly man. "Yes, we would," replied Sir Charles eagerly. "Aye, we'll see you tomorrow by the shed," replied the elderly man, as Sir Charles and his wife made their way to the restaurant. "Perhaps he will be good," thought the elderly man. The next day the three of them arrived at the shed. The elderly man opened the door, and there, standing in front of them, stood Bloomer. Sir Charles gasped when he saw the engine. It was bright red with large driving wheels and a growth of facial hair around his face. He soon woke up. "Salutations, sir," greeted the engine. "May I be of any help?" "Morning, Bloomer. Meet Sir Charles Topham Hatt and his wife Amanda. They're interested in seeing you." "Very nice to see you too," replied Bloomer gracefully. "Whoever is a friend of Nick is a friend of mine." "Why are you in this shed?" asked Sir Charles. "Hey, I broke down, and the railway couldn't afford to pay for my repairs, and so it was placed in here until they needed me. But I've waited and waited, but nothing came. And I believe," added Nick, "that today might be your lucky day." "Lucky day?" replied Bloomer, Sir Charles, and Amanda all together. "Hey, you see, I've taken care of Bloomer ever since he was placed in the shed. I gave him a good dust-up, polish and oiling in hopes that someday he might be useful again. He was a reliable engine, but when the railway was having financial trouble after merging, he was way down the list of essentials. I'm getting on in years too, and can't look after him like I used to, and thought maybe he could be part of your railway." "That's kind of you, Nick, but I don't see any use for someone like him," sighed Sir Charles. "Charles, in all those letters you received from people wanting to use the engines, why not have him pull them?" replied Amanda. This made Sir Charles smile. "Amanda, that is a wonderful idea. I think Bloomer would be just what we need for our railway." But all the same, He still needed to find an engine to take Thomas's place in the Rail 150 celebrations, but that's another story.